better overall lately.
For sure, but let's get into these picks and bans. We were talking quite extensively about what the bans were going to be, and so far it looks like we're on track. Kalista coming out from Giants will be their first one, followed by Lee's and Jax from ROCCAT.
Okay, so ROCCAT sticking to the standard, Jax Morgana. There's no reason not to ban it until Giants prove they can play other stuff, and then you can always adapt it from here. So that's a standard, and also why I think ROCCAT picked the red side. It can be a little bit easier to target ban with this here, because you can get 2 strong picks, obviously, in your first rotation on red side. Giants, on the other hand, I'm surprised that Elise and Maokai are being banned here. I would have expected Lulu to come in as a ban. I think it's been one of ROCCAT's best picks. And also Fizz as a flex pick. We know Nukeduck, absolutely fantastic Fizz player in the mid lane. Giants clearly saying we're not too afraid of that, and Elise would normally be the first pick. We saw that in LCK today in the final, like SKT just taking that first pick. Elise, we've seen it multiple times in Europe. Yet they banned their way, so there must be, almost had to be the Lulu.
Yeah, because Lulu was going to be the other one that they could potentially ban against ROCCAT, stop them from running any type of Juggernaut War composition, or even running the hyper carry like a Vayne, as we were talking about on the Alistar's, going on MrRallez. Not something you can really do on Adryh. We've saw that in the semi-finals, just didn't work out at all. So that will be picked away by Giants, but that has left open the Xayah.
And this is going to be a key thing. Nukeduck didn't show a Xayah in the quarterfinal. But we've had a few more weeks. It's very clear Xayah is still an insanely strong pick. We haven't seen PePiiNeRO play it. So now suddenly Nukeduck gets a comfort pick for himself. Fantastic strong right here. Shen as well as one of these flex picks we highlighted. I like this early rotation from ROCCAT, and again it pays off for him to have the red side, especially because, as you mentioned, Giants tend to not do well if they play around Adryh. When you pick Lulu, it's very often to buff up your AD carry. Unless you want to run Olaf in the top lane, you have like Lulu mid, Olaf top, potential Sivir AD carry. I could see that composition for Giants if they want to go with it and have Werlyb as the big carry up in the top lane.
Yeah, I would like Olaf as well. We haven't seen him play just yet, but he has those type of champions. The split pushes, the champions you can basically 1v5 on, and we are looking at a couple more picks. But yeah, ROCCAT, what's been left open for them? The Fizz has obviously gotten through, probably lower on the priority list. They have picked up the Shen as well, which can also be used to the flex. Kind of questioning whether Giants have picked that up, but ROCCAT have picked that into their picking order. Now waiting for the next 2 picks. It's just going to be Gragas and Thresh coming in.
So again, they're not really showing anything. It's very safe picks. They do well in the early game. They do well in the late game. Obviously, Gragas will not challenge, let's say, an Elise in the early stages in terms of the ganks, but he's scaling into the late game. Is one of the best among the junglers. So Giants are not really showing anything. It still tells me they were hoping they could get like a Sivir Olaf comp. ROCCAT might just steal that away though by taking the Sivir here for MrRallez, even though he had put more focus on the likes of Kalista, obviously being banned away from Giants. He's 5-0 on the champion, probably going to be the same all series long.
Well, the interesting thing here as well, that we saw that series where it didn't go so well for them, that they picked the AD carry basically first every single time, that being from Giants. The only time they didn't was when they picked up a hyper carry for Adryh later on into the champion select. It could be the same thing here.
Could be the same thing now that Sivir's been picked away. We have seen Vayne from him before, but again, this is where Giants are picking meta champions that doesn't necessarily fit Giants as a team. Because when you keep putting Adryh on a Vayne, you rely on him having a strong performance. Obviously, in game, you rely on him being a big carry. He tends to do a lot better on Corki, on Ezreal. These long-range, safe champions where he can sit back and be a little bit poke, and he can kind of buff up, or not buff up, but help out PePiiNeRO in these poke compositions. That tends to be the style he likes. Now, obviously, changing it up a little bit. Trundle could potentially be a big pick here for Werlyb. He almost managed to beat H2K with his Trundle pick in Game 3. But the coordination wasn't there for Giants as a team. And in the end, it was just too many people piling onto Werlyb and shutting him down. But that pick itself in a one-on-one is insanely strong.
Yeah, and remember he's against Shen as well. So it's just like, you want to build tanky stats? Those tanky stats are mine now.
Shen is still the flex pick. What ROCCAT is doing over here is they're taking double flex pick. One of them is also Echo. It has been a fantastic strong jungle pick if you look at the LPL, because again you can build full tank and you can kind of match the scaling of a Gragas and you bring a ton of CC. But it's also been one of the good champions for Steve in the top lane. Even though we haven't seen top lane Echo in a while, I am expecting therefore to go jungle. But then we gotta remember the Shen can always go down to Vander as that support pick, and then suddenly we get these flex picks coming in where it becomes so difficult, and multiple lanes are now hiding. And that's why Giants didn't really know if it was going to be Shen top for the Trundle to just steal away all his stats. Obviously a fantastic matchup for him. He will still beat a Fizz though in the early stages in that lane.
Well, that's funny though, because it's still going down to that Maokai pick, because, okay, yeah, Steve's played a lot of Maokai, a lot of Rumble, but at the same time, maybe expecting to ban the Rumble so it puts him on a tank for him to play the Trundle into. Not going to be the case. We're looking at an Echo here. Played that 2 times, and probably the best games we've ever seen. I'm going to swap again. As you mentioned, Flex, everything can go everywhere. Fizz going to go into the top lane, and I'll be going on Steve.
So we have seen Steve play Fizz once.
Didn't go well.
We don't have to talk too much about that game. He now had 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to practice on this patch here. As Yamato Cannon highlighted, it is his patch, apparently, and something else. And now we need to see if Steve can perform. Once again, he's back on a carry. Echo was his good champion earlier on this split. The tanks have been okay, but we never really felt like he had too big of an impact when he played Maokai. His Rumble has been hit and miss. It really is Steve we're looking at. When we look at these 2 teams here, ROCCAT will beat or at least match Giants in the jungle position, in the mid, in the AD carry, and in the support. In most cases, we will say to probably beat them. However, top lane is the one where we're like, Steve has not been looking consistently good enough this split. So we have to see now what Werlyb can do against them.
Well, with picks and bans in, it's time to load up for the first game of the 2015 European Regional Qualifier.
We still have a chance for Worlds, but I think it will be hard.
ROCCAT is a team that is usually very underrated. Regardless of that, I think we've got them figured out.
I think we have a big edge over Giant. Their pick and ban strategy is not that good for best of 5.
It's gonna be like really tough for us to win the Gauntlet, but we always turn the tables when it's like the last chance.
All right, getting into game here. The first game in this best of 5 between ROCCAT and GIA. The Giants tweet at LOL Esports using those hashtags, hashtag GIA win or ROC win. I'll be seeing who will be advancing towards World 2015 or not.
And that's a pause. Very early on. Again, it gives a little bit more time to talk about the pick and ban phase, what we saw from both teams here. ROCCAT coming off very strong, as highlighted with some of these flex picks here hiding around, and then the Azir that we didn't see from Nukeduck in the quarterfinal. We knew he could play it. It was just a question of how much does he like Azir. And we have seen other regions to stick to it. Consider it one of the strongest picks we saw in the final. Pekka had a showing on it twice, even banned away, I believe, once.
Yep.
It is such a strong pick because, again, you can pick it blind. You can always run defensive summoner. In this case, he's running with the cleanse because obviously, well, he's running cleanse because of Whimsy. We have the hook coming in from GODFRED. There's enough things that can shut him down. And if you look at the composition really from ROCCAT here, so much mobility coming in. You have Sivir ulti, you have Echo dancing around trying to zone away people. You have the Azir who can dash in, use his own wall. You have fairly good ways of either disengaging or engaging yourself if you want to, with Echo jumping in first. And then obviously the flank coming from a Fizz. So very good all-around composition on the side of ROCCAT.
Yeah, and looking towards Giants as well, we actually saw him pick up the Tristana here, which is interesting because it kind of fits in both of those. It's a safe AD carry, but it can also act as a hyper carry. I think we do have a couple of these issues sorted out. It was a problem with Adryh's keyboard, and it didn't take too long to fix that one, so we are into game here.
Sadly, in League of Legends, you do need your keyboard.
Yes,
it becomes fairly difficult if you try and play a game where you just click on all your spells with your mouse. It does not work. Tristana, though, I mean,
APM.
You make a good point. It is a safe AD carry, and in this case here, he's going to have Lulu to buff him up in the late game. It is what we see more and more. The meta is more and more changing or shooting towards the AD carries because of Lulu becoming such a good pick again. Teams pick her here, and then they take these hyper carries with it, buff it with the shield in the late game with the Whimsy as well, the ton of ability. You can't really one-shot them anymore because of ulti as well coming in, and it allows them to be very aggressive and just kind of take over the games. Definitely on the side of Giants, looking to get some items on Adryh, because at the same time, up in the top lane, this Trundle here, we know he's a massive split-pushing threat. Hydra into potentially a Blade of the Ruined King if he wants to stick purely to split-pushing. And then Steve is going to struggle the first few levels, that's for sure.
I think the most interesting thing to me here, Deficio, is that we're seeing more adaptation yet again from Giants. Because the first time we've seen PePiiNeRO pick up the Lulu. We have seen Lulu in the mid lane before from Giants, but that was from Adryh. Remember when he
let's not talk about that.
They've actually bringing this in here. PePiiNeRO has heavily prioritized the poke champions in this last split, and only had that one Diana game, which is the one that he actually won on. But apart from that, it's all been poke, and now he's going for this Lulu.
That really is the scary thing, that Giants have only won one game on a non-poke champion. As you just mentioned, the Diana pick, it was against Elements, I believe all the way back in week 2, where he just snowballed in the early game and Giants managed to win it. Everything else, poke champions. Now we're adapting a little bit more from Giants. Those, like I said, he needed more time. And as we mentioned with Nukeduck doing the same, picking up the Azir. For him, it's been a good pick all split long, in my opinion. It is one where he can make plays. Obviously, Azir is a little bit less all-in now that he no longer has that knock-up. Let's see the lane swap, though, because Giants are invading in. They're going to simply just divide the map, and Giants will take the bottom side. I don't think anyone is freezing the waves. At least both AD carries were fairly late to it. So we're just going to get the standard European fast push for now.
Yeah, for now, and Giants will be taking away that blue buff. But we've been talking about lane swaps as well, and how Giants typically have not fared well in lane swaps, whereas ROCCAT does kind of do okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's ROCCAT on almost everything. They're just doing okay. They're not the best at anything. They're not the worst at anything. All split long, but yeah, Giants, it's not necessarily what they do in the start of the lane swap. It often is what they do after the first tower goes down. They tend to either leave Werlyb too long in a lane, so he suddenly gets really far behind, or they don't get to bounce the wave properly after the tower goes down, and suddenly the enemy team gets an advantage. We have to see how they react now after the tower. This is still standard for them. We see ROCCAT doing a lot more slow. They were looking for gank around the mid lane, realizing that's a Lulu lane, which is just going to sit back and do nothing anyway. So we'll now go top and try and do exactly the same, just poke the tower down. But Tristana and Trundle, that is fast pushing on these towers.
Yeah, that tower's going to die pretty quickly. Another wave coming in, probably just going to let this eat up those minions.
Yep,
you see the recall now coming in from Adryh and GODFRED, and we're already going to go going to the top lane. The top lane should fall to ROCCAT though.
So this is a very big freeze now coming in, because there were 4 minions left, and the new wave you guys can see it on your minimap near Trundle just arrived as well. So it's going to be very easy for him to group this one up and just let it slow push down towards him. So already an improvement there from Giants, and it's going to be good for Werlyb. He gets the tower down early, he gets the big wave, and what you normally want to do now is when you swap your dual lane top, you want to shove it all the way into the tower, either take it, or use it to simply have your top lane a recall by this time here, and then meet him up top side, and you get the standard lanes where nobody's really falling behind.
Alright, so we did see the recall come in from PePiiNeRO, just going for that Fiends and Holy Grail, building up through the Chalice as well. Bot lane pickaxe has been picked up from MrRallez for the smaller power spike over the BF sword.
I want to see if Nukeduck goes to Fiends in this game here. I think against team comps like Lulu, where you often have to be a little bit more aggressive on the Azir to try and reach the backline yourself to take down that AD carry in the late game, Fiends is fine. Nash's Tooth is more the consistent DPS, especially when teams run at you. It's very good, like Nash is into Rylai's, a lot of kite. Very easy to keep landing damage, and Werlyb getting taunted, the first one. ROCCAT saying, you know what, minions over the troll.
Oh, what a Shen says to a troll to taunt him enough to make him hit him, but there we go. Vander in this bottom lane, still level 2. MrRallez should be able to hit that tower. Just trading off a little bit. Frederick now coming in as well. Just getting another taunt off, but let's try and put some damage down. The flash away from Vander actually as PePiiNeRO is roaming in from the mid lane. Comes down with a flop in from Steve. Looking to get the damage down onto Peppy as he backs off. He will get stunned down as well by the parallel convergence. Frederick putting down the damage with the barrel rolls. And Jankos is still following after Lulu. He actually picks up the first blood. That one going into ROCCAT with the rest of the team chiming in.
Giants right now, we're pushing the top lane, so Steve left it, saying, you know what, I'm not going to pick up any farm. I'm in a 2v1 lane. Adryh can take down the tower. So he had to walk all the way bottom lane. You see him only sitting on 4 CS. Really bad for him. And Giants were looking in basically okay. You know, they were trying to get into the tower defense. Didn't even have to because Trundle already picked up so much farm. But then PePiiNeRO decides, I want to join the party. He could have just stuck in the mid lane, done absolutely nothing right here, and Giants would have had a pretty good advantage in the swap. Instead, a kill over target, and now fighting for Grom.
Well, yeah, Jankos was dropping low, but he got the extra health back. There's the hook going down to him as well. Frederick with the last couple autos, but Nukeduck over the wall. Great ultimate will knock all the aggressors away and into the wall. GODFRED is pinned there, and there's nothing that he can do. He will flash away, but the soldiers will follow in with a double kill for Nukeduck.
So Giants really want to fight in this game here. First, PePiiNeRO roams from mid lane where he didn't even need to, ends up dying. Then, after your mid laner is gone, the rest of your team invades into the enemy jungle, knowing that Nukeduck still sits in the mid lane on Azir and can just walk through the river and be like, I'm here, guys. We now have a numbers advantage and a fed mid laner, basically. I say a fed mid laner, he was 0-0, a level 6
now
fed laner. Now he's fed. Giants a little bit too aggressive. I like the fact they're here to play, but you need to calm down and say, we just lost our mid laner. Let's not go invade the enemy jungle at this time, because we will be a player less. And pretty big deal when level 6 Azir shows up.
Well, those are 2 plays now that have backfired for Giants, and you're right, they just need to calm down a little, play it out. And that's the interesting thing, because from both of these teams, we've typically seen the slower early games, especially from ROCCAT. Most games we see them just go to 20 minutes, even maybe a little behind, maybe a little bit ahead, but that's all we generally see. Giants as well sometimes fall behind, but they're being super aggressive trying to get these advances against ROCCAT. And they maybe have found a place where it's like, okay, the early game, not so good, could exploit it. Didn't quite work out right here.
Yeah, it basically is 2 teams who struggled in the early game. If we look at the entire split long here, ROCCAT because they've been too passive, basically, and tried to more react to what the other team was doing, and which wasn't always in their favor. And Giants just because, well, they tend to make some mistakes, as we mentioned in the lane swap. They tend to make some mistakes in the laning phase where 2v2 maybe they've been losing the lanes, or PePiiNeRO hasn't really showed up because he's on a scaling poke champion. He doesn't really have an impact for the first 20 minutes. And it became very difficult for Giants to play out the early games. So now they're trying to be aggressive, but it's at the wrong times. And ROCCAT punish them for it.
Yeah, now is not the time to use that. And Frederick almost gets caught out. They came in for the steal, but they're not successful this time around. There's the fan vote. 80% over to Giants in this game. Very interesting. I mean, Giants have a big fan base, but right now, definitely going into ROCCAT's favor in this game at least. Still, a best of 5. There's a lot of room to maneuver for both of these teams.
And obviously, a lot of it's going to come down to adaptation between the games. How do you change your pick and ban phase? Was it a problem? In the first place, obviously, we have to highlight that Giants will be on blue side. Game 1, as we see here. Game 2, Game 3, and Game 5. Only Game 4 is ROCCAT on the blue side, and that was ROCCAT picking red side all 3 games, 1, 3, and 5. Let's see Steve here. This is going to happen quite a lot. Werlyb is looking to fight, and Steve can't really do anything against him.
Well, it's troll time. Troll time is over. Fizz will go to his turret and go ahead and recall. Werlyb will go back to lane and carry on farming. But we did see Steve catch up a little bit on farm, or quite a lot on farm from the 6 he had earlier. But yeah, it really is about adaptation in these series, as you mentioned, Deficio, because I feel like Giants is a team who can adapt in terms of their picks and bans, which is contrary to what ROCCAT was saying a little bit earlier. But whether the players can adapt in-game, that's another question for me.
Yeah, well, it's tough to say, because for Giants, we have seen some pick and bans where we said, okay, that's a fine composition you're building right here. It's very meta-focused, you get some good counter picks coming in, but then the players can't really play the champions properly or the composition properly. And that's been very difficult for Lozak as a coach, being like, okay, do I go for meta compositions that I don't really know if my team can execute properly? Or do I maybe say, ignore the meta just a little bit and say, what of our comfort picks? Trundle is one of them. We have seen it a few times in LPL, but it has been a good pick, like Vander has played it and it's been successful. But it's not a meta pick per se. It is still a good pick for Werlyb, but now Nukeduck getting jumped and Steve.
Well, Steve has been caught out. He's already used the playful trickster. There comes the pillar. Jankos coming in to assist, but he might just go down with Steve as well. Frederick piling on the autos. Werlyb comes in, flashes into the chomp, picks up that kill. Jankos, meanwhile, returns on GODFRED. Now he just needs to get away with the Time Winder.
And let's just talk about what happened down this bottom lane here, because we mentioned how Steve had caught up in farm a little bit. That's because the wave had been pushed up to him. It now starts pushing back, so Werlyb has put up a massive freeze once again. He's going to get an even bigger CS lead. And it was just a matter of time before Steve moved out and said, okay, can I do anything? Can I at least get an experience range? Giants were waiting for it, instantly reacted, get a kill for Werlyb, who's rushing to play the Rune King in this game here, so he's going to be so annoying to deal with in the one-on-one. And he's just going to stick to the side lane for as long as possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to play against that myself. Werlyb underneath this turret. Jankos looking for the gank, throws out the parallel convergence, not going to be helping too much here. Vander will put down the taunt. He's going to take a couple more tower shots before Werlyb goes down. That one will also go over to MrRallez.
So nice little setup here from ROCCAT, but also Giants not respecting the dive that could happen. You see 2 guys follow the wave in, by then you always have to say, okay, our Trundle needs backup. He's gone Cutlass first, he's not tanky at all. GODFRED was on his way, and we also saw Frederick in the jungle, but they just reacted too late. ROCCAT gets the dive, they get the tower, they get another kill. So despite Steve being so far behind, the rest of ROCCAT is getting the kills. 2 kills for Nukeduck, 2 kills for MrRallez. Get a dragon as well. And they are heading gold.
They are heading gold indeed, and ROCCAT will try and convert this into the first dragon of the game as well, as we have a pause. Guys, how do we kill this dragon? It's down to 50%. I don't know if it's ROCCAT who paused. Probably not.
They'll get to the dragon, don't worry. Should be a safe one for them. So what we have seen so far, lane swap coming in, very big freeze being set up from Giants, and because they were faster at killing the tower, they could swap Adryh to the top lane a lot faster and shove in that wave, and then get a lot of tempo basically in the game. And Steve very quickly set up in that top lane, being like, okay, 2v1, I'm a level 3 Fizz at that time, I'm not really going to get a whole lot of farm, so he just left the lane. Walked down bottom lane, got nothing. Because then Giants were there, oh well, he got an assist on the Lulu. Yeah. Which I would say is almost nothing for him at that time. Where Werlyb got the waves, got to back away from the tower after he picked up 2 or 3 waves for himself. He got a big CS advantage. He's ahead in levels, level 7 to level 6. So this Trundle pick here, which is going to be so key in the split pushing department, is just going to be the way for Giants almost to win this game. Because the Fizz shouldn't be able to do a whole lot, at least for next 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
A while, it might even not full late game. I haven't seen this matchup full late game, what's going to happen. But Trundle is just so good here in these mid-game stages. He gets a lot of extra damage coming in, and whenever he's fighting on his W...
Frozen domain.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
You don't want to trade back with him. And it's tough to do in a one-on-one, because how do you kite him in and out of it?
Yeah, you run away. That's what you do.
And then it gets free damage on you.
Yeah, and it doesn't work out. But Giants do not just have the threat of Werlyb, they're also running the Tristana in this game. And we haven't spoken too much about it now, but PePiiNeRO running the more of utility in the mid lane as well. Later this game goes on, he'll basically just be using all of his defensive and utility steroids on Adryh, or maybe even Werlyb.
We would assume it's going to be on Adryh, and it's going to be a setup where Werlyb goes in, and hopefully he can steal some tanky stats away from maybe Jankos. What we see from Fizz very often as well is like Trinity Force into some tanky items. So there should be targets for him to take stats away from. And then you have that Lulu shield on the Tristana, but potentially the Lulu ulti on the Trundle. And then PePiiNeRO can kind of mix it up. But it's going to be very key how Adryh can perform in these late game team fights, because we're looking at him with this kind of composition. You're looking at the AD carry. He's getting buffed up. He has peel from a Gragas, peel from a Thresh, peel from a Lulu. There's a lot of things to protect him. And on the side of ROCCAT, what is there really to dive onto him? Echo is not going to have the damage to kill him. He's building full tank. The Fizz is now falling behind, and it's very difficult to get a proper flank on against so much disengage right here. Also, when QSS comes in, drops the fish on the floor, you know, a lot of damage goes to waste there from Steve. So there should be enough to protect this Tristana. And then we might get this late game setup where it's all about Adryh just taking down towers and not even fighting, because if they're running away from you and you're running away from them, take down the towers. That's what you got to go for. Yeah,
and then you got Werlyb as well. Could be difficult to play against. And also with the knowledge that ROCCAT usually go late game from a lot of the games that we've seen, likewise from Giants, that's only really going to benefit Giants, and more specifically this game because of all the mentions, all the reasons you just mentioned, rather. So the later this game goes, Giants maybe have a foot in the door. At the same time, they are down early here. It's a question of whether ROCCAT can convert that into an earlier lead. Because we've seen the likes of Origin, you know, take a strong early game, convert that into a mid-game win, but are ROCCAT the team that can do that?
Yes and no. ROCCAT is a team that has been so inconsistent all split long that it's tough to really say what can ROCCAT do. It's something we talked about, obviously, before going live here. How the main weakness for ROCCAT all split long seems to have been like the shot calling or the decision-making, like, at the same time. Because in-game, we could be like, that's a great composition, you played out the early game well, you're even, now you just need to control vision, like, set up a Baron. And what happens? ROCCAT, like, randomly walks into the jungle and 2 people dies, and we're like, okay, what just went, what went wrong here? Yeah. And it's been so tough, really, to look at exactly what ROCCAT did poorly. But it comes down to that shot calling. It comes down to not following the game plan they have before the game. And I'm sure that's something they've been working on a lot coming into this. If they can fix it, we know they have the players to be a good team. We know they have the pick and ban phase to be a good team. They just need to fix that in-game decision-making, Because that's where it goes wrong, and why they have these inconsistent games.
Well, I feel like in this game, they got what they wanted, right? They had like triple flex pick, which confused even me. And it should have confused Giants and Champion Select. It meant, well, doesn't really matter what Giants pick. We can always move around it. They got what they wanted. So now all they really need to focus on is that in-game and that inconsistency. And this early game has gone pretty well for them. So therefore, they should be able to transition into the mid-game better. It's a question of, do those decisions go well?
I mean, so far, as you said, it's gone well. Because what ROCCAT have done here is saying, oh, Giants, you want to randomly fight now? You want to randomly roam from mid lane? We're just going to punish you for it. We're not going to try and do any crazy things. Yeah. We're literally just going to be like, okay, you walk into our jungle with no mid laner. Well, let's just walk in and kill you. I mean, it's been very easy decisions so far for ROCCAT. But they've been playing out the lanes over that case well because they've been able to punish Giants for it. And it's almost a shame the Giants had those bad decisions now. Because they had a good setup.
Yeah.
Trundle had the big frozen wave. Steve had been forced off the tower. There's going to be a big CS advantage for Werlyb. And then Giants started fighting and lost 3-4 kills on it, and ROCCAT got the goal lead.
What I really want to see is more early games, and we're going to see those because this is a best of 5, so we are going to have more games. But I want to see more early games about what ROCCAT does and if they do anything proactive. Because as you mentioned, you're right, it was all punishes, and Giants basically walked into the open arms of ROCCAT, and ROCCAT killed them. So we'll see how that one works out. But Adryh, Frederick, GODFRED, the gank squad took down the crab. We'll be heading into the top side of the map. Remember that Nukeduck with those 2 kills and quite a lot of farm is currently sitting on a finished Nash's 2 for about 13 minutes. And you can see that converting into quite a lot of damage onto PePiiNeRO.
Yeah, it's so scary with Azir now that you can rush at Nash's, how strong you're going to be for these mid-game fights as well. Around Dragons, ROCCAT already got the first one. They can wait for next one to spawn because right now, pushing onto the Lulu lane can be difficult. But it's the only outer turret left, really, that is in the mid lane. So what you do instead is it becomes more the division war. You start going into the enemy jungle, you try and deny some wards from them and see if you can catch them out if they do walk through. Otherwise, you kind of just have to wait for Dragon to respawn. Yeah. If the other team doesn't make a mistake here, it can be difficult to really push it further for now, because we're still so early in the game.
Well, GODFRED is waiting patiently in this bush, but I think MrRallez has already smelt this out. Has been sighted by the ward in from Giants, but they're hanging so far back. I don't think GODFRED's going to get anything done down there. Frederick able to take away this pink while everyone is chilling in the bot lane. And probably go on his merry way, carry on farming the jungle. But they're stare down the bot lane. Interesting.
Well, the thing ROCCAT can do is if they take over this jungle and they keep shoving in this bottom lane, they know where Werlyb is sitting on the bottom side. If he gets any backup, suddenly the mid lane is open for you to rush there a little bit faster than Giants can move, because Giants have to move like behind the jungle, maybe even into their own base near the inhibitor and that way up to the tier 1 tower. ROCCAT should be able to rush in there, either force PePiiNeRO away from it, threaten a dive, or just get some free damage with a Nash's Tooth Azir on that tower and then slowly chip it down, while again you're just waiting for that dragon to spawn as kind of your next move.
Well, what will the next move be? Booth? Jankos. He's found Adryh, connect the Time Winder, but this is pretty much what's going to happen for the rest of the game. ROCCAT don't have a whole lot they can connect with Adryh unless he gets caught out, unless Vander somehow gets a flank into a flash taunt, because Adryh just going to ROCCAT jump away. He's got PePiiNeRO, he's got all the summoners. It's basically going to be fine. And plus with the extra peel from the front line, from Giants and Peppy, it's going to be harder and harder for ROCCAT to deal with that. But if they continue to extend the lead, then may not even get to the point where that's a problem.
And that's also why ROCCAT is not looking to get these open 5-on-5 team fights where both teams are looking each other in the eyes. They can see everything that's going on when it comes to the engage. You've got to use that fizz here, get in from a flank from the side so you can connect to that backline. You've got to use the echo, kind of sneak in your W, trying to connect that stun, or at least force Giants to make a bad move because they have to avoid it. And that's how you can maybe split them up a little bit and get onto Adryh. But we might just see the first few team fights be instead, how fast can we take down Werlyb? When he's running at us, Azir is going to be fantastic at zoning against the Trundle. Like, that's always been one of the problems for poor Trundle. Is yes, he can run fast at you, but if you put up a wall or something in front of him, he's never going to jump over it. So Azir can basically block Werlyb from doing any proper damage in a fight. Trying to get onto Frederick. Again, we see both teams just fighting over wards. That's the small objectives right here. Clear pink ward, clear green ward. And then this mid tower, as you mentioned, how Nukeduck will always get a little bit of damage every single time. You can see on your bottom side of the map how GODFRED were trying to assist Werlyb. That meant ROCCAT knew, okay, we can so quickly just move through the jungle to this tower and just slowly chip it down. They've done it for the last few minutes, and now they get the reward. Last outer turret is gone. Dragon spawning 130. So they didn't have to make any plays. They could just wait for Nukeduck to do everything.
Frederick is no longer your jungle. That one belongs to Jankos. We'll be pushing him away back to his turret, his inner turret here. MrRallez still pushing in the bottom lane, continuing this one up. Vander may be caught out here, but he's good to go. More wards come down.
I would really like to see also Giants say, let's remove Trundle from the bottom lane. We want to get him one-on-one against Fizz. Don't let Steve just sit and free farm up in his top lane. Also, of course, now use your global. Put him on the top side of the map in case you want to contest this dragon. But he's been sitting on the bottom side. It's been very easy for ROCCAT to keep control of that wave because Sivir obviously can fast push it in. So whenever you do that, Werlyb sits on the tier 1 or tier 2 tower. ROCCAT walks into the jungle, contests the vision because they know Trundle isn't really there. And then it's very easy for them to just move around the map. So I want to see him swap top, duel this Fizz here one-on-one. It's what you do best on the Trundle in the mid game. And right now, you're not really having an impact. You're just sitting, clearing a wave, then Sivir does the same, but you just do it a lot slower.
Yeah, and this time, he may be caught out here by Vander. Oh, puts down the pillar. Means Vander will have to walk around it, also gets slowed down. Plus the frozen domain, very difficult to gank him this time around. But yeah, he's just kind of sitting down here, getting some farm, but not dueling that Fizz. And I feel like right now, especially the fact he's got a completed item versus Steve with his components, would definitely win that one-on-one. Dragon has spawned. Both teams are around this area.
And now you get the problem where your Trundle is sitting bottom lane with teleport. So Steve over in the top lane is now taking a massive wave into the tower, can get free damage on it because he's expecting Giants to be on the bottom side of the map. And then suddenly, you don't really gain anything if you are Giants right here. If you want to fight for the dragon, it's going to be 5 vs 5 anyway because of Steve being able to TP down.
Wow.
So TP being used, so they're going to give up the dragon because they kept Werlyb on the bottom side of the map for such a long time.
Yeah, and we actually saw the recall come in from Steve as well, so he's actually just going to walk back top lane because that teleport was used by Werlyb, so he doesn't need to be down to the dragon. Maybe a miracle still will come over, but maybe not this time. Well, the Lantern comes over, but El Bandido not feeling it today. We'll get you next time.
Often not worth it to risk dying for it, because then suddenly you open up for ROCCAT to push another tower in, which is what Giants is doing their best to try and defend now. But this is the kind of plays we see too often, in my opinion, from Giants, where it becomes about, okay, how can we, or how good are we at predicting what's going to happen the next 2 minutes? Okay, we know Dragon is spawning. Do we want to fight for it? Yes, no. If we do want to fight for it, obviously Werlyb should have been on the top side. What happens now? Nukeduck is just constantly shoving in mid lane. How do we stop him? Well, we can't do it right now because we're always getting pushed down in 2 lanes. So we can't move between the lanes. Werlyb couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't duel the Fizz and win that one-on-one lane. So you had 0 winning lanes for like the last 5 minutes. And that means for ROCCAT, there's just free pushing every single lane.
Yeah, we don't need to think about too much about what they're doing. ROCCAT just swapped back to the top lane to once again be against Werlyb. Vander's going to be up there as well. And they'll just carry on pushing. There's advantages in the top lane is only going to Werlyb, and the rest of the lanes in every single place. ROCCAT is getting those advantages. And Nukeduck has completed the Rylai's as well, which is kind of to be expected. We see that a lot, those pairings of items.
ROCCAT doing it again. They keep moving Steve away from Werlyb and just push the fast-pushing Sivir, who's still safe, in the lane against the Trundle. So you shove that in the wave, now ROCCAT can then leave it, and then suddenly you can be 4 guys showing up in the mid lane. You can start getting vision around Baron, even have that as a threat, even though we're only 20 minutes in. It's just the fact that Giants at some point will have to go in and face check and look and see, like, is ROCCAT doing the Baron right here? We haven't seen him on the map for a while. And then suddenly you get caught out by Shen taunt. Fizz gets the flank suddenly going. That's why we talk about how you can split up Giants as a team. So right now, them sitting so far back on the map is really making it impossible to use their split pushing threat.
Well, Steve is trying to go all in on Adryh. There comes a rocket jump. He gets most of it off. That will be the teleport in from Vander, looking for the taunt. That will be the flash away as well. Steve does not have flash, of course. He is running Ignite, has more kill pressure, but in this case, he needs more movement speed to try and catch up to him. Turns around, may be able to pick up a kill here for Adryh. Another taunt comes across, and that will seal the deal. Werlyb comes down, and Steve, does he have a way out? Subjugate comes across. GODFRED closing in from the side. Werlyb actually gets him down. Nukeduck as well throws out the Emperor's Divide. Will be zoning the rest of that team away. Frederick coming in from the left-hand side, looking for the barrel. Lands it onto Nukeduck. Only knocks Vander away, doesn't secure the kill. And Nukeduck will slide to victory and get to safety over the wall.
So Nukeduck coming down in the end, making sure it's just a 1-for-1. But we saw Adryh trying to push out just one wave for Giants. But then instantly Shen joins in. This is one of the beautiful things about Shen, how he can impact multiple lanes at once. So good play in the start from ROCCAT, but took them way too long to take Adryh down. Just be happy you blew a few summoners, and then say, okay, that's fine. We push him off the tower, we get a free wave for Steve. Let's back away from me instead. Went all in, and we trade 1-for-1. Again, though, it is Trundle getting the kill, but we haven't seen Trundle do anything other than farm minions for the last 10 minutes.
Well, he's been very effective against those minions, but I'd like to see him against the Fizz. And we'll see him go bot lane. We're seeing Steve go bot lane as well. But just a couple minutes ago, we saw huge vision control go to ROCCAT when we saw Giants basically just sit in their jungle and not do a whole lot. Now, a lot of this is being cleared away. There were 4 pink wards down that river from ROCCAT, and all of them have been cleared out over the last 2 minutes.
Obviously, ROCCAT is just saying, we got 2 dragons for 0. We're looking to make a Shen play on the map. 2v1, see if we can get 1 kill. Otherwise, we're not going to risk anything. We're going to wait and wait and wait, which is still okay for Giants because they have this Tristana Lulu combo. I just really worry about what can Werlyb do in team fights against the Zero wall, against the amount of crowd control coming in from maybe an Echo. Sivir being able to have the high amount of movement speed to dance around can make it really tricky for Werlyb to be more than just a big tank.
Well, Steve in this bottom lane, we're going to see that one-on-one.
Well, Steve's going to run. He's not going to...
Yeah, he will probably E away. He has ultimate as well. He's now level 11, so both of them have those tier 2 ultimates.
And we are at the point where Steve can do a lot more against the Trundle because, as you said, he has ulti. Trinity Force is completed, so his all-in potential is a lot stronger now on the Fizz. And so much is about can you connect that ulti. Against a melee target with 0 jumps or anything, it is fairly easy. Dash forward, connect your ulti, and then you have a ton of damage. But you still got to respect the amount of sustain coming in from a Trundle, so you need Ignite ready, which Steve does not have at the moment. And that's also one of the reasons he said, you know what, guys? I'm not going to risk anything, which also seems to be the motto of the entire ROCCAT team.
Yeah, and they haven't really needed to do a whole lot because Giants have just been walking into them for the most part. GODFRED does land the death sentence onto Jankos. It's not going to be a death sentence, maybe his own. And in fact, as Jankos is still putting down the damage from his passive, the time winders, all the skills, but that's yet another hook landing as he tries to get away here. Vander did buy enough time for him to take away this ping.
And we see the same again. ROCCAT are not opting into any crazy fights. Instead, they're using the Nash's Tooth, the Zir, and the Sivir to just constantly shove down multiple waves, and then you just group. Now that there's no threat from what Werlyb is doing because he's so far away from your tower on the bottom side, you can just group mid lane. Lulu is the main wave clear, and then you always get at least a little bit of damage on the tower, and you just slowly chip it away more and more, and it's up to Giants then to say, okay, our outer turrets are going down, we're not doing anything, we now need to force an engage, like this one, onto Nukeduck. But they don't really have any proper ways of doing it because it's going to be the Trundle walking forward, putting up the pillar, and then Nukeduck putting up his ulti and saying, nope, you're not going to walk in here. And then Giant's like, oh, okay, sorry, and then back away.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how it's going to work out. MrRallez is going back into the bottom lane, clearing out yet another wave. Werlyb heading back, gearing up for this next dragon, which has just spawned. And so far, Giants, they weren't able to contest the first. They didn't contest the last one, as Werlyb was in bot lane. Steve was pressuring. This time around, they could do something. Teleport is up from Werlyb.
Getting very late to the top lane though, so Steve gets another free push and is there faster. So if both top laners TP away now, at least Trundle loses a lot of waves. But once again, Giants, they have 0 control on the map. They don't have Werlyb in the right lane, so they don't feel like they're setting up any pressure. Therefore, they give up another dragon. 3 now for ROCCAT. Your mid tower is slowly getting chipped away. So ROCCAT is just going to go back to do exactly the same, but now we're also getting to the time where you can put pressure on the Baron. Yep. There's another objective the Giants have to worry about, and they can't keep giving up everything.
ROCCAT is achieving a lot by not doing a lot, because they've basically just been around Dragon. It's like, you're going to contest? No? Okay, we'll take this. It's just like, you're going to contest this vision? No? Okay, we'll take this.
This is why I like champions who can just fast push waves very quickly, because it suddenly means you don't have to fight. It means that if you're always a step ahead of the other team because you can instant clear a wave, it's a lot easier for you to then group mid and just time one of those waves to hitting a tower, get two or three hits, back away. Over and over and over. It's not the most exciting thing to watch, but at the same time it's very, very effective if the other team doesn't have any ways of engaging. Yeah. And that is just, like, Giants need a flash body slam in from the Gragas. That's the main engage they're going to have. But we haven't seen Frederick try and pull off any moves so far in this game. Because also Giants always is very late being grouped, because they have to clear out these side waves, and then they're like walking mid, being like, okay, now we're ready. ROCCAT already walked away.
Yeah, ROCCAT always one step ahead, or even multiple steps in this case. Steve is back into that bottom lane, still pushing away. And because of how this game has gone, everyone's got a lot of farm. Nukeduck is 290 right now at 27 minutes. Everyone is just farming up a storm on ROCCAT, just getting more and more items. Frederick does get hit by the Time Winder, but just backs away. Doesn't even get hit by the Time Winder. Vander, once again, getting hooked by GODFRED, but doesn't pull the trigger, doesn't have the members around the area to be confident for the engage, especially with Nukeduck in the middle lane, able to very quickly get around the area. And basically, everyone's summoners is up as well, because there's not been a lot of interactions between the two teams.
And that's really always the annoying thing. If you are Giants, you're like looking for that flash engage on your Gragas, you realize, oh, Sivir, Spell Shield, and Flash. There's cleanse and Flash on the Azir, because again, you haven't blown any summoners, so once you get that big engage, ROCCAT should have everything ready to defend themselves. So you might just get that big engage, ROCCAT flashes out, and then we're like, everyone is disengaged, we reset the whole map again, and ROCCAT goes back for the next 5 minutes or whatever to do exactly the same over and over. And Giants have to find a new way then to engage, which in this case, when you do have the Trundle, often comes in from you, a bit like we talked about with the Fizz. You get the map control, then you can start flanking around them, but you simply can't. Because you're pushed so far back in every single lane, almost all game long.
Yeah, right now those flanks are not going to happen. Pretty much all the warding is going down within the Giants jungle. If it's going to happen, then he's going to have to just be like Solid Snake, get all the way around them, past all of those wards, and then get behind ROCCAT, but yeah, not right now for sure. What they do have is a lot of disengagement. What they do have is a lot of damage onto this turret. Vander does get hooked in here. PePiiNeRO is stunned up, and there's the Fizz in the back, but he's so far away. GODFRED is dropping low, and ROCCAT are just running all over the Giants. Adryh is going to go down. He doesn't have enough to get out of there, just not enough heal, and Steve will look for more onto PePiiNeRO. He'll flash away as well, but not before Werlyb is thrown to the wolves, and that's a 4-for-0, all in favor of ROCCAT.
And I feel like we just talked about this, Pulse. Once Giants realize now we have to try and engage, ROCCAT will have everything ready because nothing was used. And also at this time here, Giants are engaging onto a tower. Meanwhile, they have zero clue where Steve can teleport to because they don't know where the wards are on the map. ROCCAT had full control, and we get the flank from the Fizz, we get a fight on the tower. Nukeduck and RALEZ didn't even have to use anything because the engage honestly never really happened. From Giants, it was more them grouping and then ROCCAT saying, okay, you're completely overextended. Look here at Adryh. Steve comes in, he gets straight to the back line, no protection at all. Easy kill for him, easy fight won. And Nukeduck on this Azir, in these fights, are just doing way too much damage. And they're gonna have to deal with it every single game unless they ban the wave, because we haven't seen PePiiNeRO ever use it. And it's such a good pick for Nukeduck.
I mean, look at him. He didn't burn a single summoner. He wasn't touched once in that fight. I mean,
under the tower, and it was Giants pushing up, and ROCCAT saying, okay, let's engage. Echo jumps in first. Steve gets the teleport. Just perfect setup from ROCCAT, and nothing Giants could do at that time.
Yeah, Giants just need to calm down a little. But at the point in the game where they were coming down, then they just let everything get away. So they just need to choose the right fights. They need to choose the battles.
But that really has been the problem for Giants. The moment of the game where they could just sit back and say, hey, we have a good lane swap right now, we're getting tons of farm, take it easy, boys. They went aggressive and died. That meant they had to play a lot more passive in the mid game, where they were supposed to take over a little bit with this Trundle pick. And ROCCAT has just been able to swap around him. Jankos looking for more as well.
Yeah, moving on to Frederick here, uses the cask defensively, and Vander will be the one to pick up the kill with the key strike from the passive. Another kill going over to ROCCAT, looking for this bot lane push. This is just getting out of hand.
Baron buff, Azir Sivir. So much damage on towers, and PePiiNeRO fighting that Azir passive in the mid lane. Does get it down, but it's tough for him now to wave there with Baron buff, and look at the damage they can put onto the tower. very, very quickly. Playing it very safe as well because Steve is still split pushing without a teleport.
What are you going to do? It's 4 versus 5. You committed 4 people into the bottom lane. Steve's going to take everything you own in the top sides of the map. Only now is Werlyb reacting. That tower's basically gone. The inhibitor turret in the top lane is gone. And Jankos in the bottom lane tanking up this tower. Don't have any minions anymore apart from that one hero minion. Not going to quite get it. But Adryh will clear away the rest of the minion wave. But look how low that turret is. It may even get taken down here. Oh, a couple more. One more auto from that minion. We're doing fine. What were we looking at? How low is it?
19 HP. I mean, someone just got to flash in there and take it, man. Be a man, ROCCAT.
Vander.
Steve, though, Steve got a tower on the top side. So they got the base open. We got 4 dragons to 0. Next one in 6 minutes. I mean, it's really just been ROCCAT in full control from minute, what, 9 or 10?
Yeah. So when it got basically as soon as Giants went in for that invade.
Yeah, when they got those early kills, and with the comp they're running right here, ROCCAT very, very strong all around. A lot of things they can do. Good wave clear, good fast push potential, decent split push with the Fizz, obviously. There's a lot of good things. And I really like Echo Jungle. It's been such an underrated pick in Europe. Because you pack so much CC. It's insane. Your W, how you can lock down multiple targets, and also it's very tough to get that first kill on an Echo when he's in the front line because you just ult it back. So if you're Tristana looking for that first kill to jump onto the next one, Echo is kind of denying that by always jumping back obviously to his ulti. It's not about the damage he can deal.
So the other thing about this one is that Giants, I don't necessarily dislike the composition. I feel like I say that a lot when I watch Giants, but I think it's tailored to the team. Like, I don't see the Lulu here with Adryh and being like, okay, Adryh, we're going to go late game and you're going to carry. I like Werlyb being on a split pusher, being on Trundle, but yes, it's something a little bit different, but why not stick to what's gotten you games?
I agree on the fact it doesn't fit Giants as a team for what we have seen, but Giants playing the style that we thought was the Giants style resulted in them still getting 3-0 by H2K and coming into playoff as the weakest of the 6 teams. So they had to try and adapt something. At the same time, they're running these very risky compositions that once they start falling behind, there's very little they can do. And it's because they tend to run with these split-pushing champions with no engage in the top lane. So they rely so much on one guy being basically the only engage. And that's what ROCCAT can very easily predict here. Okay, it's going to be the flash body slam from a Gragas. Like, that's the way Giants is going to start their fight. We have flashes ready, we have flames, we have spell shield on a Sivir. So it's not really easy for Fred to get onto a target. And then Giants just sit back way too defensively. And ROCCAT slowly but surely have taken over the game.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be fast, it doesn't need to be flashy. As long as you pick up the win, a win's a win. Nukeduck and Vander pushing in the middle lane. Again, just chunking this a little by little. And Nukeduck doing some more poke onto Frederick. Bot lane's being pressured, top lane's being pressured, and over time that base is going to get eroded, but not if Adryh finds a kill onto MrRallez first. The Shen ultimate comes in, he will be there to defend him and stand united. Looking for the taunt coming down, does not connect onto Giants. And that's the ultimate down here. So the siege has been momentarily delayed, but no doubt ROCCAT will be back to that not too shortly.
Yeah, still, Giants managed to push them away from the tower. No reason to take the chance. If you are ROCCAT, you have potentially 5 dragons, another Baron coming, and obviously the fact you have that base open. It's good to see what Adryh can do, though. We were getting further and further into the game, but didn't get a kill, so not really anything Giants can get from it.
Yeah.
Like, you need that big team fight now that gives Giants a Baron as well, for them really to start coming back into the game. But ROCCAT, it's going to be their mistake if that's going to happen. Otherwise, they should be able to close the game.
Oh,
nice
the
taunt.
flash taunt into Adryh, or the taunt flash rather. There's the crits coming down. Jankos looking to follow up. The ultimate comes in onto Vander, but only pushes him towards his own team. GODFRED will pay the price for that one. Adryh comes into the fight, and Adryh is out of the fight. Steve now pushing down the middle lane, looking for this tower. It's already so low from Nukeduck from before. Now, here comes the inhibitor as well, probably looking for the top one, just play it safe. Why not just take all of the inhibitors? There's nothing stopping ROCCAT from doing that right now. They'll be taking the second one here. Oh, who's that? Werlyb is up there by himself, and he will be taken out. Nukeduck flashing away. No way you can catch the bird on this one. Frederick has been stunned up by the parallel convergence. A little too tanky for ROCCAT's taste right now. Vander's on out of there. Dragon's up in 2 minutes. Baron's up in 20 seconds. They can do whatever they want on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, you can hardly make a bad call right now if you are ROCCAT. The only thing maybe you have to worry about is Il Bandito walking here on the Gragas, who does like to steal Barons for Giants and use that as a comeback. But even if they do lose a Baron, I don't think they care. You just go take the Dragon instead, and you go close out the game.
He steals that as well.
Well, if he steals everything, maybe. We can just kill him as well, but...
That works. He's going to try and make his escape here, but he's so slow. Maybe get the body slam over the wall, but Jankos is already tearing him up. Nukeduck did get hooked, though. He's dropping low, but he backs all the way into that corner, is still alive, still had the cleanse, still managed to get out. 9 lives on that bird. 2-0, plus the Baron.
I didn't know birds had 9 lives.
Yeah, sure, it applies to most animals, I'm sure. Going back
I'm not
to
sure.
base.
I mean, if you say so, Paul, I believe.
Have faith. PePiiNeRO in the top lane versus the minion waves is going to take a while to clear. But now Dragon is up in 40 seconds. ROCCAT, they don't even need to push down into that base. They can just wait. They can secure the area, place down some wards, pick up the Dragon.
So let's look at the pick and ban phase. Let's go all the way back. Seeing as, again, we're expecting Giants or ROCCAT Surges to take that Dragon and then go down to the bottom lane. Don't even need the Dragon, honestly. Pick and ban phase, Giants banned away the Maokai from Steve. It has been his most picked champion, yet it's not always we feel like Steve have much of an impact on it.
No.
Obviously, this game was not about Steve on Fizz, because he was basically shut down from the lane swap. It was more Giants himself, as we've mentioned a few times, being too over-aggressive. But we saw ROCCAT use these flex picks really well in the pick and ban phase. Echo coming in there, Azir, obviously not a flex pick, but just as an early rotation, so that's such a safe pick. And then the Shen as well, which has been a big pick here. Vander's had a good performance, always showing up whenever there was a fight. The few times Giants have looked for fights, Vander was there. So ROCCAT in this pick and ban phase, because they've had so many different things they can use, and because they have this Azir pick for Nukeduck, Giants might have to change up the bans completely. I don't think banning Maokai over an Azir is going to be a smart thing for the next game.
They had a first pick as well, and they banned the Elise. Would maybe like to see that prioritized, even if ROCCAT don't ban it coming in here. But that's the first Nexus turret going down. Werlyb is trying to make his escape, but there's not a whole lot you can do against a Baron and 5 Dragon team. And you can see that damage coming in. 1 goes down, 2 goes down. Make that the triple for RALEZ. And that'll be the next Nexus turret going down, as well as the Nexus itself. They're just styling at this point, as PePiiNeRO and GODFRED just try and poke a little. That'll be the first Nexus going down of this series. 1-0 to ROCCAT.
Slow and steady wins the race for ROCCAT. Outside of those few fights in the early game, Giants really didn't bring anything to this game here. Ran a composition we have seen somewhat before, at least when it comes with the split pushing part for Werlyb. Never got to set him up for split pushing though. He was always in the wrong lane at the wrong time, and then the rest of Giants was built around PePiiNeRO supporting Adryh. Something we haven't seen before. That was the big change. Werlyb on a split push on perfectly normal. GODFRED on Thresh, you know, normal. It was the Adryh PePiiNeRO thing, which didn't do anything after they fell behind. And then the fact that Werlyb, and this is surprising to me, because normally he is very good at finding the one-on-ones. He's very good at being in the right lane, but here it was just completely off.
Yeah.
Basically all game long.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the biggest thing was PePiiNeRO being on something that wasn't, you know, a pure poke champion, being on that supporty mid laner. Would maybe like to see him go back to a carry mid laner, even go back to the poke. Yes, it didn't work out up against H2K, but maybe if they've improved that style a little bit. I mean, this definitely didn't work. But that was also based off those early decisions, which went awry.
And also what we got to look at in the pick and ban phase, the Elise ban was so they could first pick the Lulu as a takeaway from Nukeduck or Steve potentially in the top lane. And then Lulu is fantastic in the current meta. I like it. I like to shift towards AD carries. But again, the problem is when your comp is not, or when your team is not normally playing around that style, it doesn't always work.
Well, that's what we think. But we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk to take a look at what they think about ROCCAT's Game 1 win.
Thank you, Paul.